there's not many things that are worse than Concord. But you know what is worse than Concord? You know what sold less than Concord? About 28% less than Concord? Well, that's none other than Until Dawn, baby. Until Dawn debuted with less players than even Concord did.
Emotional damage.
That is absolutely insane. Insane, my guy. Do you understand how crazy that is? How absolutely fucking bonkers that is? It's terrible. But that's where we're at. That's where we're at. Less players than Concord. Now, keep in mind, guys, I feel like that is a bigger L, even though I know Concord lost more money because the budget was astronomical. But what are we doing? Right? Like, what are we honestly doing? Nobody asked for this. Nobody wanted this. Nobody even remotely mentioned this whenever the discussion of a remake came up. If you were to ask someone, hey, what kind of games would you want to be remade? Nobody would fucking say Until Dawn. Nobody would have said that. Maybe 10 years from now, but nobody would have said that now. So it makes you wonder where or how did this come into conversation? How did Until Dawn come into a conversation where that was the game that got chosen to be remade? That's the game, right? We were discussing this in Griffcast before, and we were talking about games like Dino Crisis, some of the original Resident Evil games that haven't been remade. Also, there's so many different games that should be remade, right? Can you imagine, like we said in the last Hypnocast? Can you imagine what was it? Manhunt, The Suffering. Now, granted, those games would get modern audience really quick, but still. Can you imagine those games? It would be such a joke. But still, Until Dawn was not one of them. All right, so let's get into the numbers. Until Dawn's recently released remake and remaster doesn't appear to be very appealing, becoming one of the worst PS5 launches this year. Until Dawn's player count on PS5 is reportedly 28.6% less than Concord's, a game that bombed so badly that Sony pulled it from storefronts just 2 weeks after launch. We don't know for sure why the game is doing so badly on PS5. Oh, really? They don't know for sure why the game is doing so badly. Gee, chat, let me ask you, do you guys know why this game is doing so bad? I don't know if you guys are all geniuses, but perhaps you can help us figure out why is this game doing so bad? Because I feel like it's obvious. But maybe that's me. Maybe that's me. I don't know. Listen, this game is doing bad because, number one, it's a remake that nobody asked for. Number two, it's a game that nobody asked for that looks worse than the game that everybody has already played. It's a game that nobody asked for that has been released 4 or 5 times now when nobody asked for those either. Why do you keep releasing the same game that nobody's asking for? And then you're trying to charge full price so that you can pay the developers who remade this game for what, the 4th or 5th time now? Nobody asked for this. Nobody wanted this. That's quite simply why it failed. And truth be told, the original Until Dawn looks so much better overall from an aesthetic standpoint that most people would rather play that game instead. If anybody wanted to play Until Dawn, they'll just go play the original. And not only that, Until Dawn was offered as a free game for PlayStation so many times during its monthly giveaways that pretty much almost everybody has that game. So nobody has to actually go out and buy Until Dawn in order to be able to play it, because most of them probably already have it in their libraries for free. That includes myself. But they're going to pretend like they don't know. But they say factors like high price, lack of marketing. Oh, lack of marketing. Yeah. Lack of marketing. Got it. Lack of marketing. That's a good one. That's a good one. And negative comparisons to the original game have undoubtedly contributed. Well, those negative comparisons wouldn't be there if they would have respected the vision of the original game. It's not our decision, right? We didn't make the game the way that they made it. They made the game the way that they made it. That's not our fault. They chose to make the game super bright. They chose to abandon the aesthetic that people liked in the original game for their own personal aesthetic, and they're perfectly allowed to do that. They're their own developer, but at the end of the day, you got to live with your decisions, right? If your decision didn't land, then you're just going to have to do better the next time. That's just what it is. But everybody left, right, and center has agreed that the original looks better aesthetically. It may not be more graphically impressive, but it looks better aesthetically for what it was trying to portray. It was trying to portray that uneasy feeling, that horror feeling, and it did it for the most part. You don't have that now in some portions of the remake because it's so goddamn Florida bright there. So then it says, the game launched last week on PS5 and Steam, though to say it hasn't set the world on fire would be an understatement. Comparison videos were made shortly before release, with comments full of people criticizing the title for looking way worse than the original. Don't put it in quotations, because it does look way worse. Stripping away its atmosphere to chase realism. It also had more than a few technical issues too, as the game launched to mixed reviews on Steam. All of those issues, combined with the game's less than stellar marketing on PlayStation's part, now seem to have come together perfectly to deliver this year's most abysmal, high-profile launch on the platform. According to True Trophies, the player count for Until Dawn on PS5 launch is one of the worst that the console has ever seen this year, and is somehow 28.6% smaller than even Concord's player count at launch. Oh my God, bro. Can you imagine living in a world where your video game that is a AAA video game for all intents and purposes sold less than Concord? Can you imagine being on a ladder or a ranking system and Concord is higher than you are? Can you imagine that? That's got to be painful. This is the very same Concord that bombed so hard that PlayStation had to remove it from both its own storefront and Steam just 2 weeks after launch and offer everyone that bought it a no questions asked refund. Until Dawn is admittedly doing better on Steam than Concord did, though it only managed a peak player count of 2,607 while launching on a new platform for the first time. That still isn't great. There are most likely a number of factors at play here, including the fact that PlayStation is charging full price for a remake of a game that isn't even a decade old yet at this point, and one that many fans are claiming looks worse than the original. You can still grab the original Until Dawn for next to nothing on a secondhand market, and it looks like there just isn't enough incentive to pay full price for the remake. And to be honest with you, we have the battle of the remakes, right? So right now, and they're both horror games. Right now, you have Silent Hill 2 Remake, and you have Until Dawn Remake. You got two horror game remakes, and one is vastly selling more than the other. Silent Hill 2's numbers, honestly, looking at the overall picture compared to what they need to be at in order to make money, is not that good. Until Dawn is like 1/20th of those numbers. It's really bad. There's 750 some odd players playing right now Until Dawn Remake. 750 some odd players. That's crazy. They got smoked.